A couple of brothers of mine up in Wisconsin mentioned to me they had seen this special on Amazon Prime about the pagan origins of Xmas, also known as Christmas. So I decided to check it out last night. Lo and behold, this documentary called A Very Pagan Christmas not only had a segment in it about Odin and Satan Claus, which is what I was going to do a study on, but it had so much more. So for this year's Xmas study, I've decided to put this out for all to see. Kudos to Brian Cunningham for the research and the fact he illustrated this with Midjourney and Runway. These are two softwares that are hard for me to work with, so never mind some of the people having more or less fingers than normal. It has excellent history, but it must be noted that when the narrator says church, know this is describing the heathen reprobate one known as the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church is not the true church of the Scriptures, consisting of God's elect bride mentioned in the Scriptures, who for centuries would have nothing to do with Xmas, easily recognizing the heathen cultures behind it. One can easily notice on YouTube and elsewhere there are guys that are either of the sect of Roman Catholicism or sympathizers with it who labor in vain to attempt to cover their tails now, trying to debunk what true Protestants have known and suffered torture, mutilation, and even death for by the Babylonian system that promotes this abomination at the hands of these ungodly so-called priests. This one character likes to bring up the point that it seems to be undocumented. The McClintock and Strong Encyclopedia and the Hastings Encyclopedia of Religion and Ethics have more than enough information in them to substantiate what has been so accurately cited. So without further ado, if you are a true Bible believer, it is my hope and belief that the viewer is in for a great treat with some history and illustrations behind what most have been led to believe is holy when it is actually a pile of satanic excrement.
Christmas, a season of light and warmth, of family gatherings and joyful traditions. For centuries, we've celebrated it with gifts under the tree, festive meals, and the glow of candles pushing back the winter darkness. Yet, hidden beneath this holiday's cheerful facade lies a story far older than the birth of Christ, one filled with powerful ancient rituals, strange symbols, and a mysterious darkness that still lingers in the air. Before Christmas became a Christian holiday, December's coldest nights were marked by festivals honouring the sun's return, by celebrations where fire, feasting, and fervent prayer sought to ward off the long, bitter nights. These early rites, carried out by pagans in Europe and beyond, were meant to channel forces they believed were essential for survival. When Christianity took hold, church leaders faced a monumental challenge: how to embrace these age-old customs while transforming them into a celebration for Christ. The solution? Not to erase the traditions, but to fuse them, making December 25th a day that was both familiar and new. This is the hidden history of Christmas, the holiday that sits at the crossroads of ancient and sacred, where our merriest customs carry whispers from a darker, stranger past. We'll uncover how the rituals of old still pulse beneath today's traditions, how symbols once meant to protect and honour pagan gods became part of the Christian story. This season, join us as we peel back the layers of Christmas and explore the shadowed roots of the holiday we thought we knew. In its earliest days, Christianity was a fledgling faith, a movement born in the shadow of the Roman Empire. For nearly 3 centuries, Christians worshipped in secrecy, their beliefs kept hidden from a world where pagan gods held sway. Followers gathered in private homes, in catacombs, whispering prayers of devotion to a saviour whose teachings promised salvation. But in a world ruled by Roman law, Christianity was seen as a threat, a challenge to the gods and traditions that had anchored society for centuries. Everything changed in the 4th century. The Roman Emperor Constantine, drawn by a vision before a decisive battle, converted to Christianity, declaring it the empire's favoured faith. This act turned the Christian church from an underground movement into a powerful institution, one that would soon shape the course of history. In 380 CE, Emperor Theodosius went even further, making Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire and banning all other forms of worship. Pagan temples were shuttered, rituals condemned. But the church faced a dilemma. Pagan beliefs and customs were deeply woven into the lives of the people. To erase them would be nearly impossible. And so, a new strategy was born, one that would take the familiar pagan rites and fold them into a Christian framework. The church began to absorb elements of paganism, reinterpreting festivals and customs in ways that aligned with its doctrine. Ancient holidays celebrating the cycles of nature, the movement of the sun, and the harvests were transformed into saints' days and Christian festivals. The winter solstice, once a time of rebirth for the sun in pagan traditions, was reimagined as the birth of Christ, the Saviour who would bring light into a darkened world. By embracing these seasonal celebrations, the Church could reach into the hearts of those who clung to their ancestral ways, offering them something that felt both new and comfortingly familiar. But the transition wasn't always peaceful. Pagan practices were often labelled as superstitions or outright condemned as devil worship, leading to a crackdown on anyone who clung too fiercely to the old ways. Temples dedicated to the gods of Rome and Greece were converted to churches, their statues and altars dismantled, sacred groves and shrines were destroyed, and the once popular festivals of the gods were either banned outright or subsumed into the Christian calendar. What had once been a celebration of the natural world and its cycles became acts of worship for a single god, reshaped to fit the doctrines of the Church. This was more than just a conversion of faith. It was a transformation of culture itself. The Church was creating a unified religious identity, one that could stand against the fragmented beliefs of the past. Yet, in this drive for unity, pagan elements persisted, hiding in plain sight within the new celebrations. The Church may have succeeded in claiming December 25th for Christ, but the rituals and symbols of the old gods lingered, haunting the holiday and blending into the fabric of the new faith. Through this blend of dominance and adaptation, Christianity managed to grow into a force that would not only survive but also reshape the ancient world, one pagan festival at a time. This fusion laid the foundation for what would become the most celebrated holiday in the Christian calendar, a holiday that, despite its new veneer, could never entirely shake its pagan roots. The Church's path to establishing Christmas was paved with a calculated approach, not to erase but to adapt. For centuries, December's longest nights had been dedicated to powerful rituals woven into the cultures of Rome and Northern Europe. The winter solstice held a profound allure, marking the longest night of the year and the turning point when darkness began to recede. To ancient peoples, this was no ordinary date. It was a promise that light would return. The earth would thaw, and life, though dormant, was never truly gone. Across different lands, winter was a season of reverence and ritual. In Rome, it was a time to honour Saturn, the god of agriculture and time. Saturn embodied both creation and decay, a reminder that life was a cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Saturnalia, the festival in his honour, became a week of joyous chaos, where social norms were relaxed and the rigid structures of Roman life gave way to feasts, gifts, and the spirit of misrule. Saturn's influence reached beyond agriculture, representing survival and resilience, a message particularly meaningful in winter's depths. Further north, the Germanic and Norse tribes approached winter with a different intensity. For them, survival was harsher, and the forces of the season were regarded with both awe and fear. People believed spirits, ancestors, and gods roamed freely during the winter darkness. Honouring these forces was essential to ask for protection and mercy through the bleakest nights, invoking the sun's rebirth as both a natural and supernatural event. Fires and gatherings marked this time of year, warding off what they believed were dangerous, unseen forces lurking in the cold. For the early church, these deeply entrenched beliefs presented both a challenge and an opportunity. The solstice traditions were an inseparable part of life. Removing them entirely would likely fail. But there was another path. Interestingly, there was no established date for Christ's birth. Early Christian texts make no mention of it, and for centuries, Jesus' birth went unmarked on the calendar. But as Christianity spread, church leaders realized that setting a date for Christ's birth might help unify new followers and offer a Christian alternative to the beloved winter festivities of Saturnalia and Yule. December 25th was chosen, a date close to the solstice, aligning it with rituals already devoted to light, rebirth, and renewal. By setting Christ's birth on December 25th, the Church could transform the solstice into a celebration that mirrored its own message. Jesus would be framed as the true light returning to the world, a saviour whose birth symbolised the rebirth of hope for both this life and the next. The beauty of this choice was its subtlety. Pagans could still gather for feasts and fires, holding on to the mysteries of the season. But now, each element carried a Christian significance, a new layer of meaning that oriented their celebrations toward heaven. Rather than demanding a complete renunciation, the Church offered a reinterpretation, a way to see ancient customs through a Christian lens. In choosing December 25th, the Church created a holiday that resonated across cultures. It became both a celebration of Christ and a continuation of humanity's oldest and most sacred rhythms. The foundation was laid for a season that felt both new and ancient, one that would unite faiths and practices in the heart of winter. In this delicate fusion, Christmas was born, not as a departure from the past, but as a seamless blending, drawing on the power of traditions that had marked the solstice for centuries. By setting December 25th as Christ's birth, the Church created a holiday that spoke to both the Christian faithful and those who held ancient customs close to their hearts. But this fusion went beyond just the date. It extended into the symbols that defined the season. One of the most enduring of these is the evergreen tree, a powerful emblem of life in winter's depths that made a natural transition into Christmas tradition. For the Germanic and Norse peoples whose winters were long and harsh, evergreens stood as symbols of survival. When the fields lay barren and the world was draped in snow, these trees remained untouched by winter's chill, vibrant against a stark landscape. Bringing branches of fir, pine, and holly indoors was more than decoration. It was an act of drawing strength from nature, of aligning oneself with a symbol that promised life would endure even the darkest season. In Yule celebrations, the winter solstice marked the beginning of the sun's slow return, and evergreens became central to the festivities. People believed these trees held special power, connecting earth and sky, representing protection and renewal. They were adorned with small tokens, sometimes carved ornaments or bundles of food, as offerings meant to please the spirits believed to reside within. Decorating evergreens became a ritual of gratitude, a way to ask for good fortune and ward off spirits said to be active in winter's depths. As Christianity spread through these regions, the Church allowed the practice to continue but gradually infused it with new meaning. The symbolism of the evergreen, its defiance of winter's deathly grip, aligned well with the Christian message of eternal life through Christ. Soon evergreens were reframed not merely as protectors against winter spirits, but as symbols of divine endurance. They came to represent Christ's promise, a beacon of faith that could withstand any darkness. This adaptation was subtle but effective, transforming a pagan practice into something that fit naturally within Christian celebrations. By the 16th century, German Christians took this custom further, bringing entire trees into their homes as part of their Christmas celebrations. According to legend, Martin Luther was the first to place candles on a small fir tree, inspired by a night walk beneath the stars. The candles, meant to evoke a sky full of stars, reflected the new Christian symbolism of the tree, a reminder of Christ's light in the world, shining through the coldest night. This practice took on a life of its own, spreading across Germany and eventually beyond. Each region added its own touches. Some used apples, representing the fruit of Eden, others used wafers symbolizing the Eucharist. In time, the tree became not just a symbol of survival, but of celebration, a centerpiece for families to gather around, weaving together generations in shared ritual. By the 19th century, the Christmas tree was popularized in the English-speaking world, thanks in part to Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, who brought the German tradition to Windsor Castle. The image of the royal family gathered around their tree captivated the public, and soon the practice spread across England and America, taking root as a beloved Christmas tradition. Today, the Christmas tree may look modern, adorned with electric lights and tinsel, but its roots run deep. It carries with it the spirit of Yule and the resilience of those ancient evergreens, a reminder that even in the coldest, darkest season, life endures. The evergreen tree may be the most recognizable symbol of Christmas, but it is far from the only piece of nature that found its way into winter celebrations. Holly, ivy, and the Yule log each holds a legacy that predates Christmas by centuries. These elements, like the tree itself, served as powerful symbols in ancient pagan rituals, offering protection and a sense of continuity in the heart of winter. Holly, with its glossy green leaves and bright red berries, was revered by the Celts, Romans, and Germanic tribes alike. The sharp, thorn-like leaves and vivid berries made holly seem almost otherworldly, a plant that thrived in the depths of winter. For many ancient cultures, holly was believed to ward off evil spirits. Its prickly leaves were seen as a barrier against malevolent forces, and the berries, a shock of red against the winter landscape, were thought to provide spiritual protection and even luck. In Celtic tradition, holly was linked to the Holly King, a deity who ruled the dark half of the year, battling the Oak King, who represented summer. Holly was often placed around doorways and windows, forming a natural shield between the home and whatever dangers winter nights might bring. Ivy, often paired with holly in modern wreaths and garlands, carried its own mystical associations. Unlike holly, ivy was a plant that clung, wrapping itself tightly around trees and walls, enduring through the coldest days. Ancient peoples saw ivy's resilience as a symbol of fidelity, friendship, and faith. Its tenacious growth made it a reminder of life's persistence, even in the bleakest season. But ivy's symbolism was double-edged. While it was associated with loyalty and endurance, it was also linked to Bacchus, the Roman god of wine and revelry. In Roman celebrations, ivy was a key symbol during Saturnalia, when societal norms were turned upside down and revelers indulged in feasts and wine. Ivy thus carried with it a sense of life's dualities, faithfulness and wild abandon, resilience and release. The Yule log, however, was perhaps the most ancient and powerful symbol of all. In the cold, unforgiving winters of Northern Europe, fire was more than a comfort. It was a lifeline. During the Yule season, families would select a massive log to burn through the longest nights, symbolizing the sun's return and the warmth it would bring. This log was no ordinary piece of wood. It was chosen with care, often from an oak or ash tree, which were considered sacred. Families would carve symbols into it, and in some traditions sprinkle it with wine or salt as offerings. Once lit, the Yule log was expected to burn for days. Its flames represented the sun, a promise that warmth and light would soon reclaim the land. Ashes from the burned log were kept as charms, scattered over fields to bring fertility, or placed in homes to protect against lightning and misfortune. As Christianity grew, these plants and practices, holly, ivy, and the Yule log, were not discarded but adapted. The Church allowed their symbolism to shift, gently aligning these sacred items with Christian beliefs. Holly, once a protector against evil, was recast as a symbol of Christ's suffering, its red berries representing the drops of blood from his crown of thorns. Ivy's endurance became an emblem of faith, its clinging vines a metaphor for a soul's connection to God. And the Yule log, with its fire that burned through the night, became a quiet symbol of Christ as the light of the world. These elements soon took on a life of their own in Christmas decor. Holly and ivy were woven into wreaths and garlands, symbols of eternal life and protection that adorned churches and homes. The Yule log tradition continued, particularly in Northern Europe, where many families kept the custom alive, gathering around a log to share food and drink, echoing the ancient promise of warmth and survival. In this way, holly, ivy, and the Yule log each became more than just decorations. They are symbols of resilience and light, rooted in ancient beliefs that survived the transition from pagan ritual to Christian holiday. Even now, their presence during Christmas serves as a reminder of a deeper heritage, a connection to the earth, the endurance of life through winter's darkest days, and a quiet, timeless hope for the return of the sun. As holly, ivy, and the Yule log became woven into the traditions of winter, another element flickered to life, one that reached back even further into the human spirit: fire. In the heart of winter's darkness, light held a power that transcended mere warmth. It was a symbol of hope, a force to ward off the long nights and invite the sun's return. From ancient solstice celebrations to modern holiday lights, the use of fire and illumination has always been central to the season. Long before the advent of electricity, fire was humanity's answer to the overwhelming darkness of winter. For ancient people, lighting fires on the longest nights of the year was a way to mark the solstice and to celebrate the rebirth of the sun. In cultures throughout Europe, from the Norse lands to Celtic Britain, bonfires were lit, filling the night with warmth and flickering light. These fires served as a reminder of the sun's power, a call for its strength to return, and a reassurance that even the deepest dark would be followed by dawn. This tradition extended into households where candles became a source of comfort and ritual. In Germanic regions, it was common to light candles throughout the house during the Yule season, each one representing a spark of hope that the winter would eventually yield. These candles were sometimes arranged in circles, symbolizing the cyclical nature of time and the eternal return of the sun. In some traditions, candles were placed in windows to guide spirits or travelers, inviting warmth and light into the cold, silent night. As Christianity grew, the symbol of light was easily incorporated into the story of Christmas. Christ was seen as the light of the world, a savior whose presence symbolized hope and redemption. Candles took on new meaning, representing divine light and the soul's journey toward faith. By the Middle Ages, it was common for churches to be adorned with candles at Christmas, filling sacred spaces with a glow that seemed almost otherworldly. With the advent of modern technology, the symbolism of light only grew. By the 19th century, the first Christmas trees in Germany were illuminated with small, carefully placed candles, a nod to both the stars in the winter sky and the ancient fires of Yule. These candle-lit trees became a stunning focal point, blending the pagan reverence for fire with the Christian theme of holy light. In time, candles gave way to electric lights, and trees, homes, and entire city streets were adorned in glowing displays, turning winter nights into scenes of shimmering beauty. Today, the lights of Christmas shine brighter than ever, illuminating more than just trees and homes. They are a continuation of an ancient legacy, a reminder that even in the darkest hours there is light to be found. In every candle, every bulb, and every glowing strand, we see echoes of those early fires that lit the solstice nights, a testament to humanity's enduring hope for warmth, renewal, and the promise of brighter days ahead. The lights of Christmas may guide us through the darkest nights, but winter's chill also brings with it the presence of mysterious figures who roam the season. Chief among these is Santa Claus, a jolly figure, beloved by children who flies through the night to deliver gifts. Yet Santa's origins are far stranger and more complex than the red-suited image we know today. His roots reach deep into pagan lore, blending Christian saints, folklore, and perhaps most intriguingly, the ancient Norse god Odin. Long before Santa, there was Odin, the all-father of Norse mythology, a figure both revered and feared. Odin was a god of wisdom, war, and death, but he was also a wanderer, a bearded figure cloaked in a wide-brimmed hat or a hood, often disguised as he moved through the world of mortals. During the Yule season, Odin took on a role that bears an eerie resemblance to Santa's midnight journeys. Mounted on his 8-legged horse, Sleipnir, he was said to ride across the winter sky, leading a procession of spectral figures known as the Wild Hunt. This procession was thought to sweep through villages, its ghostly riders bringing omens of fortune or doom. The Norse people believed that during Yule, Odin would fly overhead, watching over humanity. Children would leave out offerings of straw, carrots, or treats for Sleipnir, hoping to earn Odin's favour and protection. In return, he might leave small gifts or blessings, marking a tradition that echoes today in Santa's visits and the treats left for his reindeer. This dual role of rewarding the worthy and punishing the wicked found a home in Santa's evolving legend, a nod to Odin's complex character, both generous and fearsome. With the spread of Christianity, elements of Odin's mythology mingled with stories of Saint Nicholas, a Christian bishop known for his generosity and kindness toward children. Saint Nicholas was born in the 3rd century in what is now modern-day Turkey, and his legendary deeds, rescuing children, delivering secret gifts and performing miracles, soon made him a popular figure across Europe. Stories of Saint Nicholas merged with local folklore and his image began to shift, absorbing the traits of figures like Odin and other pagan spirits of the winter season. In many parts of Europe, this fusion gave rise to a figure known as Father Christmas in England and Sinterklaas in the Netherlands. These early depictions were not always the jovial Santa we know today. Rather, they were complex figures, often carrying both gifts and warnings. In some regions, Sinterklaas was accompanied by a helper who would punish misbehaving children, reflecting the duality of reward and punishment that harks back to Odin's presence in winter folklore. By the 19th century, the image of Santa Claus had travelled to America, where his legend continued to evolve. Writers and artists shaped him into the red-suited, merry figure we know today. Yet, even in this modern portrayal, echoes of his ancient origins remain. Santa's annual journey through the night sky, his watchful eye on children's behaviour, and his mysterious arrival and departure all trace back to a history steeped in myth and magic. He is both a bringer of gifts and a figure who wields a subtle authority, a reminder of the ancient gods who once roamed the winter season. Today's Santa Claus may seem a world apart from the Norse All-Father, but the spirit of Odin, the wise, wandering, bearded figure who rides through the winter sky, lingers in every story of Santa's midnight ride. He is a character born of winter's mysteries, bridging the gap between the supernatural and the familiar, a reminder that even our most beloved holiday traditions hold shadows of the ancient past. While Santa Claus embodies the warmth and cheer of the season, he's far from the only winter visitor with a claim on December's longest nights. Across Europe, an array of darker figures emerged from the mists of folklore, creatures who didn't merely bring gifts, but came to judge, reward, or punish those they visited. Rooted in pre-Christian beliefs about spirits that walked freely during winter, these characters represent a side of the season that's more shadow than light, reminding us that the holidays were once filled with a blend of awe and fear. One of the most infamous of these figures is Krampus, the horned, half-goat, half-demon creature from Alpine folklore. Krampus is the shadow to St. Nicholas's light, a figure who roams the streets in early December, dragging chains and carrying a bundle of birch branches. Where St. Nicholas rewards the good children with treats and gifts, Krampus delivers a very different kind of judgment. For those who've misbehaved, Krampus doesn't simply leave coal. He might swat them with his bundle of sticks or, in some versions of the legend, carry them away in a sack. This eerie companion to St. Nicholas reminds children that the holidays aren't just about cheer and celebration. They're also a time to reflect on behaviour, lest Krampus come calling. The origins of Krampus stretch back to the pagan traditions of the region, where he was thought to be a holdover from old mountain spirits or demons. In pre-Christian times, the winter season was believed to be a period when the veil between worlds was thin, allowing supernatural beings to roam. Figures like Krampus may have been inspired by these beliefs, representing the darker forces of nature that needed to be respected, especially during the coldest and darkest time of the year. When Christianity spread across Europe, the Church tolerated Krampus, allowing his terrifying image to serve as a moral counterpoint to St. Nicholas's mercy and kindness. Travel south to Italy, and you'll find another figure with a far gentler yet equally mysterious presence: La Befana. Known as the Christmas witch, La Befana is said to travel on the night before the Epiphany, bringing gifts to children across Italy. Her image is far from the sweet holiday icon of Santa Claus. She's portrayed as an old woman, often slightly haggard, riding a broomstick through the winter skies. Children leave out wine and snacks for her, hoping to please this strange, solitary figure who, like Santa, leaves gifts for the well-behaved and coal for the naughty. According to legend, La Befana's origins lie in a story that touches on the Nativity itself. When the wise men were journeying to visit the newborn Christ, they asked La Befana for directions. She was too busy with her housework to join them, but later regretted her decision. In some versions of the story, she sets out with gifts, hoping to find the Christ child but never succeeds. Yet there is something distinctly pre-Christian about her, a sense that she belongs to an older pagan tradition of benevolent female spirits or goddesses associated with hearth and home. Like Krampus, La Befana straddles the line between folklore and faith, embodying both mystery and morality. Across Europe, other spectral visitors populate the winter season, each with their own role in marking the holiday. In parts of Germany and Austria, a figure called Frau Perchta roams the countryside. Known as both a goddess and a witch, Frau Perchta is said to visit homes during the 12 days of Christmas. Like Krampus, she can be both generous and terrifying. Good children might receive a silver coin, but those who fail to uphold household traditions, particularly in the spinning of wool, an old winter task, are said to face her wrath. She is a being who serves to uphold the customs of winter, a reminder that tradition itself holds a sacred power, especially during the darkest days of the year. These figures, Krampus, La Befana, Frau Perchta, are shadows cast by the light of the season, reminders of an older time when winter's chill was not merely endured but revered. They bring a sense of balance to the celebrations, embodying both reward and punishment, comfort and fear. Each one reflects the ancient understanding that the season was a time of judgment, a period when the supernatural was near, and one's actions throughout the year came back to haunt, or bless, those left waiting in the quiet, fire-lit rooms of winter. Through these figures, we glimpse a past where the spirit of Christmas carried not only generosity and joy, but also an edge of warning, a reminder that the season, like the night itself, held mysteries that were both wondrous and dark. The holiday season is more than just gifts and decorations. It's a time when tables overflow with food and drink, when families and friends gather to celebrate with feasts that echo back through the centuries. These gatherings, filled with laughter, abundance, and a touch of indulgence, are rooted in winter rites that long predate Christmas. For the ancient peoples who braved the coldest months, feasting during the winter solstice was an act of resilience, a defiant celebration of life amid the harshest season. In ancient Rome, the festival of Saturnalia marked the heart of the winter season, a week-long event honouring Saturn, the god of agriculture and abundance. Beginning around December 17th, Saturnalia was a joyous and unruly time when societal norms were turned upside down. Masters served their servants, gambling was allowed, and all were free to revel without restraint. Feasting was central to Saturnalia, with tables piled high to honour Saturn and to embrace the fleeting freedom of the festival. It was an acknowledgement of both the hardships of winter and the hope of eventual renewal. In a season when scarcity was often a reality, Saturnalia's feasts were a gesture of abundance, an assertion that life would endure. Further north, in the lands of the Germanic and Norse peoples, the Yule festival marked the winter solstice. Here, communities came together to eat, drink, and make merry as a way to lift their spirits through winter's darkest days. Feasts were held with meat, bread, and ale, simple, hearty fare that brought warmth and comfort. The Yule boar, an offering to the Norse god Freyr, symbolized fertility and prosperity. In these winter celebrations, food wasn't just sustenance. It was a powerful symbol, a means of warding off despair and drawing the community close. Each bite, each cup of ale shared around the fire was a gesture of solidarity, a vow that they would endure together. The act of gathering around a table to feast became an expression of more than just survival. It was a way to honor the spirits of the season, to thank the gods for their protection, and to embrace each other against the biting chill. In these rituals, the meal itself became sacred, and every toast and laugh was a defiance of the cold outside. When Christianity took hold, the Church saw the power of these feasts, recognizing the communal bond they fostered and the hope they provided. Rather than forbidding these gatherings, the Church transformed them, allowing feasting to become part of the Christmas celebration. Instead of honoring Saturn or Norse gods, the feast was redirected to honor Christ's birth. Yet the spirit of the solstice feasts lived on, a sense of warmth, community, and abundance, of gathering against the cold and celebrating the hope of brighter days to come. Over centuries, these ancient winter feasts morphed into the Christmas feasts we know today. From the banquet halls of medieval Europe to the dining tables of modern homes, Christmas gatherings retained that same spirit of resilience and joy. Traditions like the Christmas ham echo the Yule boar of old, a nod to prosperity and plenty. Mince pies, plum puddings, roasted meats, and an array of seasonal sweets have become symbols of abundance, carrying forward the message that even in the darkest season there is enough. Enough food, enough warmth, enough hope. In Victorian England, the holiday meal became a pinnacle of the Christmas celebration. It was during this era that many of the foods and customs we associate with Christmas feasting were solidified. Roasted meats, cakes, and puddings took centre stage, and the concept of a grand holiday meal spread through the British Empire and into America. Charles Dickens's A Christmas Carol captured this spirit, with the Cratchit family's humble but joyful Christmas meal. A reminder that feasting isn't about wealth, but about togetherness, a spirit of gratitude and generosity that runs deep. Today, these gatherings, filled with laughter, storytelling, and shared food, are far more than just meals. They're a celebration of survival, a reminder of the countless winters humanity has endured, a symbol of resilience and community that goes back to Saturnalia and Yule. Each dish, each toast, each shared story around the holiday table is a connection to that ancient legacy, a promise that we are stronger together, no matter the darkness beyond the door. In every feast, every clinking glass, every crowded table, the spirit of Saturnalia and Yule lives on. As winter feasts brought people together to share in abundance, another ritual emerged, a tradition rooted in goodwill and fortune. Gift-giving, now a cherished part of Christmas, began as an ancient custom of offerings to the gods and spirits who governed the land and the harvest. In a season when resources were scarce, giving was an act of faith and a wish for prosperity in the months to come. Across cultures, these offerings symbolized more than generosity. They were a plea for protection, a way to court favor and ensure survival. In ancient Rome, the festival of Saturnalia saw the exchange of small gifts among family and friends. Unlike the grand gestures of today, these offerings were modest tokens, candles to symbolize the return of light, or clay figurines representing the gods who might grant blessings in return. The Romans believed that sharing gifts honored Saturn, the god of agriculture, and invited abundance for the coming year. Giving, then, was a way to acknowledge the cycles of nature, a recognition that what was shared would come back tenfold when the earth awoke from winter's sleep. Moving north, gift-giving found another form in the Yule celebrations of Germanic and Norse cultures. During the solstice, families would leave offerings outside their doors for the wandering spirits they believed travelled during Yule. These gifts, often food or small tokens, were meant to appease these spirits, keeping them satisfied and at a safe distance from the home. Some tales say that even Odin himself received gifts during Yule, as he rode through the sky with his 8-legged horse Sleipnir. As Christianity spread, the Church gradually adapted these customs, weaving them into the narrative of Christ's birth. The story of the Magi, or 3 wise men bringing gifts to the infant Jesus, became a Christian justification for giving, a model of generosity to honour a divine moment. Over time, this act of offering gifts became entwined with the spirit of Christmas, a way to share the blessing of Christ's birth by giving to others. Yet, even as the tradition took on new meaning, the roots of the ancient offerings remained. A connection to the forces of nature, luck and prosperity that people once sought in a darker world. Wassailing too speaks to these ancient customs of seeking blessing and protection. In its earliest forms, wassailing was not about knocking on doors to sing cheerful tunes, but rather a way to bring health and fortune to the community's crops and orchards. The word wassail itself comes from the Old Norse vesheil, meaning be well or be in good health. During the winter months, villagers would gather and move from orchard to orchard, singing blessings to the trees and pouring cider or ale over their roots. This was an offering to the spirits of the orchard, a way to awaken the trees, driving away any lingering malevolent forces and encouraging a bountiful harvest in the coming year. As part of this ritual, the villagers would shout and make noise to scare away evil spirits, while also singing songs that praised the trees. It was a blend of reverence and raucousness, a ceremony that bridged respect for nature with a sense of joy and defiance in the face of winter. These early wassailers believed their songs and offerings had power, that their voices could shape the fortunes of the land. In time, this custom evolved, taking on the friendlier form of door-to-door wassailing, where singers would bless households rather than orchards. By the Middle Ages, wassailing began to shift toward the domestic sphere, where groups would travel from home to home, singing songs in exchange for food and drink. This tradition, too, had roots in reciprocity, the belief that blessings given would be blessings returned. The wassailers brought good fortune with their songs, but they also expected goodwill in return. Households would often offer mulled wine, ale, or spiced cider to the singers, creating a cycle of generosity and fortune that bound the community together. This exchange of song for hospitality would later evolve into the Christmas caroling familiar today, but its origins were far more mystical, a practice steeped in the hope that shared blessings could protect against winter's chill. In these traditions, gift-giving and wassailing carry echoes of the oldest winter customs, gestures meant to honour the forces that shaped people's lives. From the offerings left for wandering spirits to the songs that blessed the orchards, these practices served as reminders that kindness and generosity could summon light in the darkest times. Today's Christmas gifts may be wrapped in colourful paper and ribbon, and carolers may now sing by electric lights rather than under starlit skies, but their essence is unchanged. Each gift and every song holds a trace of the ancient belief that what is given with goodwill will come back, like the returning sun, to warm us all. Today, Christmas is a patchwork holiday, a fusion of traditions, symbols, and rituals that have crossed centuries and continents. While we may see Christmas as a purely modern celebration, much of what fills our holiday season still carries echoes of its ancient pagan roots. Christmas has become a global phenomenon, celebrated even in countries with no historical connection to Christianity. In Japan, for instance, the holiday is less about religion and more about festivity, with families flocking to order a special Christmas cake and enjoy fried chicken, often from a well-known fast food chain. This custom may seem far removed from the Yule feasts of ancient Germanic tribes, but it shares the same spirit, a way to mark the season with abundance and joy, even if the symbols have changed. Consumer culture has transformed the holiday even further. In the 20th century, companies like Coca-Cola helped popularize the modern image of Santa Claus, the jolly, red-suited figure known worldwide. While we associate this Santa with cheer and kindness, his origins lie in ancient folklore, where figures like Odin and St. Nicholas blended to create the supernatural winter visitor. Marketing may have given him a friendlier face, but in many ways, he remains the mysterious, bearded figure who traverses the winter skies, leaving gifts and warnings alike. In today's Christmas, the sacred and the secular meet in ways that would have been unthinkable in earlier times. Families gather to sing carols, both hymns honouring Christ and secular songs like Jingle Bells or Frosty the Snowman. Advent calendars, which once counted down to the birth of Christ, are now filled with chocolates and toys, marking time in ways that feel joyful yet distinctly non-religious. The lines between tradition and adaptation blur just as they did centuries ago when the Church incorporated pagan customs into its own calendar. Yet through all these layers, the core remains. At heart, Christmas is still a celebration of resilience and warmth in the depths of winter. It's a time to gather together, share food and stories, and bring light to the darkest days, just as our ancestors did during Saturnalia, Yule, and other winter solstice rites. No matter how modern it seems, the holiday holds traces of those ancient rituals, fulfilling a need for comfort and connection that transcends time. Christmas today is a mosaic, a holiday where each piece, no matter how transformed, echoes back to the old ways. It is both new and timeless, a season that even now is steeped in the ancient desire to find joy, light, and community in winter's depths. Through feasts and fires, spirits and songs, we've explored a holiday born from a complex blend of Christian faith and ancient pagan ritual. Each tradition we hold dear carries with it echoes of Yule and Saturnalia, of offerings to spirits and fires lit to ward off the darkness. Santa's midnight ride, the Christmas tree's enduring green, the wassailer's songs, all these customs are bound to a past that shimmers just below the surface, unseen but ever present. This is the true spirit of Christmas, a celebration where light and dark coexist, where joy mingles with mystery. It's a reminder that what we cherish as familiar has roots in the strange, in the primal fears and hopes of those who came long before us. Each gift, each candle, each carol is more than a tradition. It's a whisper from an ancient world, a reminder that our modern holiday holds secrets shaped by centuries. So as you gather by the glow of the tree or share a meal around a crowded table, remember the history lingering beneath the holiday. In Christmas's light lies the shadow of those older rites, unsettling, timeless, and ever resilient, reminding us that even the brightest celebrations are born from the depths of winter's dark.